Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dog Millionaire, and welcome to episode 2 of our D&D Quest Log. At the end of the last one, I left you guys off with what had happened leading up to when I took the reins. So basically, from where we stopped, it had been a month. That's the time that has passed from the end of the campaign that we had stopped at. Campaign, I guess you call it. I think of it at the end of a season of a TV show. So it stopped there, and it picked up a month later. The setup is Chul has been missing since the fight with the Manticore. The party alone doesn't care. The whole plan, and they've told me this, the plan was to kill me at some point because I didn't mesh with them. And my alignment was different from theirs, so at a certain point they were going to kill me. Okay, fine, whatever, great. So, the basis is, my brother and I had talked before about making brother characters in-game. So basically we created, he had made another Dragonborn character named Duran, who was my bond brother in the game. So, cut to, when the game picks up, Duran has been looking for Chul for about a month now, because the way we had it set up, we're making our own game, our own universe, mind you. Bond brothers, in Dragonborn physiology, if you want to call it that, they have a sixth sense almost. It's not like telepathy or anything like that. You can't sense thoughts. But think of like how you hear twins talk about like they can kind of feel if something's off, or they kind of get an intuition thing sometimes. Something like that. So basically, Duran knew something was wrong, something was off, so he came looking for Chul. Found out that he was in the party that was in Red Larch. Came to Red Larch looking for the party, blah, blah, blah. Found a guy named Sven, who's a local hunter, who is a human, I believe, human or elf, who was very, kind of greedy and snidely. He wants his money, but he knew he had seen a Dragonborn in the wilderness that matched Chul's description. So Duran caught wind of this and was asking questions about him. So Duran found out that the party had been with Chul, sent out letters summoning them to the inn in Red Larch. They all show up, they talk to Sven. Sven demands money from them, of course. They all pony up the cash. Or actually, no, Duran ponied up the cash. He paid himself because no one else cared enough to pay. So, great. They end up going out into the woods, and they're looking. And at this point, this is my first DM ever. Like, the first game I've ever tried DMing, and my buddies are giving me hell about it. They're fucking with me, and they know that I have stuff prepared, but they're intentionally, like, trying to go off the beaten path. And here's my brother trying to, like, okay, no, we're gonna go this way. Fantastic. So long story short, we get to this, it was an ancient elven temple, because in our version of the game, the one that Nathan and I are making, mages, ancient mages, mainly elves at this point, had created the Dragonborn to combat dragons at some point. We haven't described or decided where, when, what, who, how, whatever, but they were man-made Dragonborn were, and at a certain point they gained their own independence. Now, they have like an inborn kind of genetic disposition to despise half-dragons, which will come important, not in this episode, but later. So, anyway, we get to this ancient elven temple. And they get in there, and there's 3 guardians against the walls, stone. They look like statues, just suits of armor, large, probably 10 feet tall. And 4 pillars in the center. And I have the map that I used. And these are mirror images, and that'll make sense in a moment. But that was the layout of the room. I don't know if you can see that from here. So, on each of the pillars, there was symbols kind of carved on there. And one was an axe, a shield, a wand, and a dagger. And they had to be, the puzzle was, they had to be held by specific party members in order to activate a portal which would transport them to the next area. So they eventually figured it out, but if they touched the wrong pillar, one of the guardians would awaken and attack them. Behind the last guardian was it was like a stone plaque that read, 4 pillars stand in tribute here. Now, I wrote this, so I'm a little proud of it. But it said, 4 pillars stand in tribute here, a riddle, lock, and key, commemorating those who fell but would not bend a knee. The first an axe of hardened steel to cleave his foes apart. The next a dagger razor sharp to quench the beating heart. Third a wand of untold power, untapped and undefined. Last a shield, tall and wide, ensuring you survive. Those that came before you created what you've slain, and in the time you've read this, they begin to rise again. So basically, as they would finish reading, I gave that to Duran, my brother, and he read it. And at the end of the poem, like reading it aloud, the armor chunks that had been slain started to jerk around and start moving, like reassembling themselves. And I said, you have 5 minutes. I said, if you can't figure it out in 5 minutes, that's a pretty generous time frame, but I didn't want to fuck them. So I just said, okay, there you go. There's 5 minutes. And they figured it out. But all it did was they had to hold on to the pillars, the appropriate pillars for their class, and then the ground lit up in a different, like an arcane-looking design. And then they were transported to an adjacent portal, so it's like a sister portal, in a new game area. Because that was my main concern. One of my main concerns with this was, how do I differentiate my game zone from the actual game zone that is in the book we were playing from? I figured this is a pretty good way of doing that. So it transported them to, it was like a frozen, kind of like a cold, I kind of envisioned Skyrim a little bit because I played that a lot. So like snowy, cold, mountains everywhere, whatever. And it was kind of at the base of 2 mountains. So the range goes up and splits to 2, and halfway up from where they could see, from where they were standing, they could see a small, it looked small to them, but it was a town or city nestled between these 2 mountains. And the town was called Winterscore. So they come out and they meet up with a guy named Barrelhelm. He was a dragonborn captain of guard, and he's fighting along 2 half-elves fighting orcs and a half-dragon. So they meet up with them and they're like, what are you doing here? They don't know who these people are. Barrelhelm basically looks at my brother, who's also a dragonborn, and says, like, he kind of gives him the old Roman handshake, and he's like, thank you for the help, because they jumped in and attacked the orcs, helped them fight him off. And he's like, I'll take you to our leader. And takes them to the city. And the city's designed in kind of a ring, like this. And then there's an outer ring. I have this shit written down somewhere. The outer ring has humans, because I kind of wanted this to be like the traditional good races were the ones that were rare, kind of the outcasts. So the outer ring was humans, I guess drow are normally outcasts, but whatever. Humans, drow, and elves were kind of like the poor population, where the inner, like the more wealthy section were run by there's dragonborn, dwarves, and tieflings. Because I kind of wanted this to be, I know traditionally in the D&D universe, from what Nathan has told me, dragonborn are fairly rare. But I figured there's probably an area in the world where they are common, where it's kind of like their home. So I figured, why not here? So anyway, they come to the center and they meet the king. His name was Kriv. Oh, what the hell was his last name? There we go, Kriv Turotov, and he is the chieftain of the city. And as far as hierarchy goes with politics and whatnot, I kind of envisioned it being more kind of like Klingon. Because I don't... Yeah, kind of like Klingon. Because I don't like the idea of like everything being a monarchy or democracy, republic, any of those things. I kind of like the idea of, if this guy is in charge, he's the strongest. And if you can defeat him in combat, if you can kill him in fair combat, you are the leader now. And so they kind of like that, and that'll come into play later in the story. So anyway, they meet him, and he goes, they're like, have you heard of another dragonborn come through here by the name of Chul Fleshmend? And he goes, I have. I say, I'll tell you what, if you clear out this crypt, you know, traditional fantasy stuff, I will tell you what you want to know. So sends them off, and they go off and they clear out this crypt. And I totally stole this from an online site. If I can find the damn thing. I mean, this was what it looked like. Yeah, that's appropriate. There we go. I know that's terrible looking. It's super blurry. But that was the fortress. I called it the Cursed Keep. So it was just filled with skeletons and zombies and stuff like that. And there was some neat stuff to find in there, but they go through it, and the boss of it was a wight. And I had actually beefed him up a little bit in the stats with a couple of other skeletons around him just to give a bit of a challenge. I didn't want to be too hard, but I kind of want to test the waters and see what can these guys take. And it worked great. They had a great time doing it. They said they had a lot of fun. So clear it out. They get a couple of neat enchanted items that they haven't gotten. I actually gave them a choice. I said, do you want to go get these identified first, or do you want to go talk to Kriv first? And like one guy was like, I think we should get our stuff, identified. And they're like, no, we'll go talk to them, then we'll get it done. Well, that was a mistake, because Kriv was an asshole, and he's super corrupt. And so the minute because they found this big chest with like 500 gold pieces in it, or 200 gold or something, but it was like a lot of really nice stuff. And so they get back to town, and they're like, we did it, we cleared him out, here's, you know, proof, and they gave him a chunk of something that they got from the white, and he's like, okay, and like Nathan, or my brother Duran, looked at him and said, we've returned, and he gave him like this stern kind of little bit of a grin, and was like, okay, he's like, you're under arrest for, you know, I'm basically putting you in prison for robbing the crown, or robbing me. And that was where we left off. So, because I remember, again, I remember, not cool of those videos, man. He's talking about don't ever put them in a corner. Don't ever put your party in a corner, because if you do, they will fight and they will die. And, not will die, but they will fight. If you're ever trying to get them to go to prison, you got to find a way. He didn't say this, but this is how I'm looking. You got to find a way to make it work. And I kind of messed that up, because I ended up getting them there and like, and say, you're under arrest, and I'm like, this guy's an asshole, great. And then that was like the end of the night, because it was getting like 1 in the morning. I'm like, okay, we'll come back next week. And so that's where we left off. I mean, I had fun, I had a great time, and I mean, the guy said they had a great time too. There was a couple occasions where like Chester Goldbags, the old dwarf barbarian, he is an absolute monster, man. He does so much damage. It's like ridiculous for the party to make. He puts out so much power. So what's going to be interesting is how to keep this up, because I have an idea of where I want the story to go, and I don't want to ruin it yet, because on the off chance one of my buddies sees this playing with us, I don't want to give away the ending. But I figured it would make sense for Chul to kind of not be a direct player character now, because it wasn't meshing with the group, but it kind of makes a good antagonist. I don't know if I'm going to use him like that yet. I know he's going to be involved, but it kind of makes a good antagonist, because everybody hates him already. So I don't know. It was interesting though. I'm actually knee deep in writing. It's like 2 days. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving, and I have to come up with a good campaign for Friday morning. So that'll be fun. But anyhow, thanks guys for sticking around and watching. I appreciate it. And if you like this, stick around, subscribe, whatever. I'm gonna keep this up as much as I can. So anyhow, take it easy. Later.